Imagine you're standing on the edge of a coastline you've never seen before. Behind you, the land you know, every landmark, every food source, every safe place to sleep. In front of you, water. Not a stream you can wade across, open water, stretching out until it just disappears into the sky. And somehow, someone before you already crossed it. Not with a boat, not with anything you'd recognize as one. And yet the evidence is undeniable, because on the other side of that water, there are human footprints, human tools, human bones, thousands of years old, on islands that were never connected to the mainland, ever. So the question isn't really, did ancient humans cross open water without boats? They obviously did. The real question is how, because what they built to do it might be some of the most underrated engineering in human history. Today, water is a barrier you barely notice. You drive over a bridge, you fly over an ocean in a metal tube at 30,000 feet, and you don't think twice about it. But for most of human history, water was one of the hardest limits on the planet. It didn't care how strong you were, how smart you were, or how badly you needed to get to the other side. If you couldn't cross it, that was it. That was the edge of your world. And yet, around 65,000 years ago, maybe earlier, humans reached Australia.
And Australia has never been connected to Asia by land, not once, not during any ice age, not at any point in the last several million years. To get there, ancient humans had to cross a stretch of open ocean, some of it over 90 kilometers wide, with currents strong enough to sweep a raft completely off course. And they weren't just drifting there by accident. Genetic and archaeological evidence shows this happened in numbers large enough to establish a stable population. That means this wasn't one lucky survivor washing ashore. That means multiple successful crossings, on purpose, probably over generations. So what were they actually using? The honest answer is we don't know exactly, because wood and plant fiber don't survive 65,000 years. No ancient watercraft from that period has ever been found. Archaeologists have to work backward from what they do have, the fact that the crossing happened at all, and clues from later, better preserved technology used by peoples who lived similar coastal lives much more recently. The leading theory is bamboo rafts. In parts of Southeast Asia, bamboo grows in dense, incredibly strong stands, and it floats. Simple rafts made of bamboo poles lashed together with plant fiber rope could carry multiple people and supplies, and they're remarkably stable in open water.
In 2019, a team of researchers actually built a bamboo raft using only tools and materials that would have existed 65,000 years ago and paddled it from Taiwan toward Japan, following what's believed to be a real ancient migration route. It worked. It was hard, physically brutal, and it took days, but it worked. And that raft needed rope, which brings back something we've covered before. The invention of string wasn't just for tools and shelter. It was maritime technology. Twisted plant fiber cordage, the same kind found at sites like Abri-du-Maras in France, dating back over 50,000 years, would have been essential for lashing a raft together tightly enough to survive open ocean swells without falling apart.
But building the raft was only step one. The harder problem was knowing where to go, because from the coast of what's now Indonesia, you cannot see Australia. It's below the horizon. So whoever made that first successful crossing wasn't paddling toward a visible destination. They were paddling into open water, based on something else entirely: signs. Certain birds fly out to sea to feed and return to land every evening, which means their flight direction at dusk points toward land that's still invisible to a person on the water. Cloud formations behave differently over land than over open ocean. Land heats up faster than water during the day, which creates a distinctive column of cumulus cloud sitting above an island long before the island itself is visible. Experienced Pacific Island navigators, generations later, used exactly this technique, reading a stationary cloud on the horizon as a sign that land existed beneath it, sometimes from over 30 miles away. Ocean swells matter too. Waves generated far out at sea travel in extremely consistent, almost mechanical patterns, but when those swells hit an island, they bend and refract around it, creating interference patterns you can actually feel through the hull of a raft or canoe, long before you can see anything. Traditional Pacific navigators, especially in the Marshall Islands, got so skilled at reading these wave patterns that they built stick charts, actual physical maps made from bent palm ribs and small shells, representing swell patterns and island positions.
Not drawings of coastlines, diagrams of how the ocean itself moved. So between birds, clouds, and the feel of the water beneath them, ancient voyagers had a toolkit of signs pointing toward land they couldn't yet see. It wasn't guesswork. It was pattern recognition, refined and passed down, the same way song lines and star paths were passed down on land. And crossing open water wasn't a one-time miracle. It kept happening, again and again, across completely different parts of the world. On the island of Crete in the Mediterranean, archaeologists found stone tools dating back at least 130,000 years. Tools clearly made by an early human species. And Crete has been an island, cut off from the mainland, for over 5 million years. Someone, or something, crossed a significant stretch of open Mediterranean water that long ago, long before modern humans even existed as a species. And in the Pacific, the migrations kept going for tens of thousands of years after Australia. Human groups reached New Guinea, then the Solomon Islands, then eventually, over thousands of years, spread across virtually the entire Pacific Ocean, one of the largest and most spread out zones ever colonized by any species without power transportation. Some of those final journeys, out to Hawaii and Easter Island, crossed thousands of miles of completely open ocean with no land at all in between, using double-hulled voyaging canoes lashed together with the same principle as that first bamboo raft, just refined over tens of thousands of years of trial, failure, and improvement. And failure was constant. This part rarely gets talked about. For every successful crossing that founded a population on a new island, there were almost certainly countless attempts that ended in nothing. Rafts that broke apart, currents that pulled people the wrong way, groups that simply never arrived anywhere and were never recorded because there was no one left to tell the story. The people who succeeded weren't the only ones who tried. They were just the ones the water didn't take. So why cross at all? Why risk everything on open water when solid ground was right behind you? Some of it was almost certainly necessity, population pressure, competition for resources, conflict pushing groups outward. But some of it was probably something else entirely. The same drive that sent people deep into painted caves during rainstorms, the same curiosity that built rope-making tools out of mammoth ivory. Somebody looked at that empty horizon and needed to know what was on the other side of it. And when they got there, when that first raft touched sand on a beach nobody from their world had ever stood on, humanity didn't just survive without boats. It proved something bigger, that water was never actually the edge of the world. It was just the next problem to solve. And they solved it with bamboo, rope, birds, clouds, and the feel of waves against their skin, long before anyone ever wrote the word navigation down.